Boys and girls, Alex here. I haven't made a video for a while as I've been concentrating mainly on puzzles. And as a lot of my people I know have said, you've seen one, you've seen them all. The latest I've been working on are more upmarket puzzles away from my laser cut freebie giveaways, even though I do make bigger ones on the laser. These are more designed for friends as a present, and as you can see they're out of solids. In fact, I'm rigging up to make 4 more boxes like these out of I think that's camphor laurel, that's boomby, I call it boomby, brown tree out of my backyard, which turns out to be this type of a thing. And this is just a block of firewood, but it's rock solid and it polishes up beautifully. Anyway, that's a bit down there. What I've been doing too is making these pieces out of blocks. They're 18mm cubes. 18mm because it's a carryover from when I made it out of MDF. 18mm was made up of 3 laminations of 6mm MDF. And basically they're the pieces that are involved in this. But this video isn't about making puzzles per se, as much as cutting out the cubes for these puzzles. On a miter saw, it was fiddle-farty dangerous to hold it down. On the table saw, I used to use, people would think immediately of using a sled. However, I found that the sled, when you're pushing away from you, the pieces are out of sight. I don't like that, and my sled is a bit too big. I've given away my small one. So I'll show you how I've set up my table saw to cut small pieces. Hang on. These are the pieces I've cut. As you can see, there's quite a few of them. I hope these won't split. There's a seam going through there. You check, and with a bit of luck, once they're glued up, I tend to look at where the check is and I'll glue them up cross piece so the super glue will hopefully hold them together. But as you can see, they're little pieces. I think I've showed you. Look, I'll even go into how I turn these square cubes into a nice rounded beveled cube. But as I said, I'm concentrating on making cubes as opposed to puzzles. Over to the table saw. I've rigged up my table saw so that it is now turned on. Bear in mind that you can't use this method if you've got a mag switch. So if you've got a mag switch, you'll have to find a different way around it. But I've got a power box down there that can be remote controlled by this button, which I've got close access to when I'm trying to turn on and off the saw. That is switched on, feeding power. Well, there's power coming through here, and I control that like you'll hear it when I turn it on. Press the button and my saw comes on. Press the button again, the saw comes off. I can't remember. Look, maybe I'll put a link into this unit down the bottom. However, it's a remote control thing you can use. There's many different ones out. Okay, now let's go to the setup. The way I've got it set up is I use a miter, my Incra miter track. Now, I've got this big monstrous thing here only because I use this, I slide along the fence till there. I use a piece of thing to actually measure the gap, and then because it's nice and bulky, I can bring it out of the way and try not to bloody walk into it because it hurts. Then flip over to the other side. Now this is how I operate it. As you can see, the buttons here, so I can turn that on and off. Just behind me is my dust controller. And what I do is I actually pull this towards me. But I minimise the travel that way, and I can see everything. Keep my fingers well out of reach. And once this gets rather short, then I don't recommend... Well, I do recommend you take extra precaution as this gets shorter and shorter. And when it gets to the point where you think, geez, I might be able to cut another piece, think twice about it, or take every possible precaution to keep your fingers safe. Because you've got to bear in mind there's no guard, no blade protection here. It's just pure mind. Just watch what you're doing. Here we go. Machine on. Bring this back, feed it through, and drag. Advance, drag. As you can see, it's starting to get short and more dangerous. However, with this setup, I can see where the blade is, I can see where my fingers are. Now this is about the extreme I'll do, but I'm now very careful, and that's it. That piece can be cut, but I always try something stupid like this, but I usually finish up losing it. Look, I'll try it, but I doubt if it'll work. Okay, switch it off. Wait for the blade to come to a grinding stop, hang on. Blade has stopped, grab my piece and let's just toss these in. Which is a bit of a bummer actually, because I haven't got any more stock 18mm by 18mm rods to cut up, which means I've got to now start ripping a few more pieces. However, I'll use different timber. Okay, now over to my lathe. Lathe, you say? The guy's crazy. Yes, I am crazy, but not because I'm doing it on the lathe. What I've got is, this is my disc sander set up on the lathe. It's been configured in such a way that it collects probably about 90% of the sawdust, maybe even a bit more. As you can see, I've used it quite extensively. There's some I've already done. These are the ones that are yet to be done. Now, what I do is I need to turn on my Dusty. There we go. Dusty on. Whoa. It's going to help, it just popped out. No, I'll turn it off. I went and got the remotes for the Dusty so it's easier to turn on and off rather than walk over there. What I've done is I've set up this little jig. I have a paintbrush to get rid of the sawdust so it bits don't bank up to it. What I do then is just to slap that into this thing. This is sort of like a milling table that I can micro adjust, which is great. And then it's really just a case of putting the cubes through the grinder. Once look, I've probably done about 1,000 by now, so I'm used to the movement. I won't do all of these, I'll only do a couple, but you'll get a feel for how I go about it. Dusty goes on, lathe goes on, then it's a matter of counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, flip. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't see what I'm doing, but it's really just flipping it like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flip 3 times and you've got yourself a beautiful little beveled thing in comparison to that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flip. 1, 2, 3, 4. Flip. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I normally would put on my face mask. I'm only doing this because so I can talk to you guys. But that's it. I've done that. Again, one more. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. Now I can do roughly about 4 a minute, so I've got probably about 30 there. That'll take me about 5-10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes all up. And then it's a case of going upstairs and gluing it. And of course, don't forget to turn that off too. Oh, I've been pressing the on button, no wonder it didn't stop. Look, that's about it. Now, again, I don't know whether I will make any videos about the puzzles I'm making or the puzzle boxes. A lot of people aren't into puzzles, however, bear in mind that puzzle I showed you, that retails for about, I think that one is about $120 Canadian, or around that vintage. So, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like you do it in 5 seconds, it does take a bit to make. But if you set up a production line, hey, you could make a few shekels out of it. I don't at the moment, touch wood, although the way the government is, the vermin I should say, government, creating, I might have to start subsidising my pension. But at the moment, touch wood, I still don't have to sell anything yet. Well, I tried to sell my body, but nobody would buy it. Not even science. Okay, Uru, keep safe. And of course, I'll probably add something to this. Who knows? Finished them all, as you can see. And what surprises me is I don't actually get when I'm moving it so quickly and all that, I haven't actually caught my finger on the sandpaper yet. That is surprising because, as I said, you just go into this repetitive mechanical state and yeah. Anyway, that's it. What I might do is, seeing as how I got onto this thing about making puzzle pieces, look, I might just go over how I make the puzzle box, only because this is actually quite a step aside from me laser cutting, which is things that I've probably covered in many other videos. So feel free to have a look at that if you're interested. Uru for this one.